The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience.
Pretty cute little mashup there. It really gets you on edge a little bit.
Yeah, you're getting really fancy. I've just got to tell you, you're just getting too fancy.
Oh yeah, not bad. I just love, I love the mood setter, but I have to say, what a week. I like to start our power chat off with saying, welcome to the show, Fennell Norton, co-host with Catherine White, co-host of as well of this great show. And I'm just so excited that we have this great program on Mass Surveillance. So I'm glad everybody's in the room. So let's just get our power chat going and then we'll introduce our guests. So let's talk about what's on everybody's mind. What is that? Government shutdown shit? Is it Epstein files? What do you want to talk about?
So why don't we talk a little bit about the shutdown and where we are right now? Because I know that there was a lot of anxiety over the eight senators
Anxiety.
who decided to go with the Republicans to open up the government. And so I had all kinds of thoughts about that, but people were all over the place. And so I want to know what you're thinking and feeling now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first that Sunday, like everybody else, which I posted about on our Substack, right? I was pretty pissed off because I feel like, look, we know you when you start a fight or a battle like this, you as a strategic party or organization should have an exit ramp. You should have a plan. And
Hmm.
I felt like, haven't we learned anything about, in the sense of like our brand or leadership or how we want to be, that we need to make sure that we're really strategic. And when you're fighting authoritarianism, when you're fighting this kind of battle, you better show always strength. You shouldn't show weakness. So I thought they showed the problem for me was eventually the rollout and the lack, what I felt of strength in that. So I really was like, look, we could have come out and just really went hard on Republicans want to starve people. Here's our way that we're going to deal with this. Come along with us. And I felt like it was game playing because of who they picked, the sloppy way they handled it. So that's my feeling right now. I'm feeling like, well, we're going to deal with this, but you shit on my parade. And I was a little mad because that win, I was still on the high from our win. And I was like, you got to continue the vibe. And if you're not clued into that vibe, where are you? Are you in a bubble? So that was my initial feeling. So that's where I am now, trying to figure out how to deal with it and how to make it into something that we really need to, keep on moving, keep on swimming forward, as Representative McClellan said. Just keep on swimming, keep on moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I won't go much further other than to say,
Go right
I
ahead.
think it was, yeah, I think it was someone who wrote that when the door closes, a window opens. And
Oh,
I think it was Michael O'Connor. And I think he's right about that. And I think what we wanted to know was we wanted to see the window ahead of time. And so as they made this
yeah.
decision, the eight of them, it would have been nice for us to know what the window opening was going to be. And then that way we can really start to make people see that we are have a power that we are using and that we are, to your point, being strategic so that people understand what's next, because there was power in the move that they made. They could have demonstrated how these eight were going to be the powerful makers and make the Republicans see what that healthcare plan was really going to look like, talking about that and having us amplify that message. So I think the real opportunity for them is to figure out, you have this huge grassroots organization, you have these other huge organizations around you. How do you bring them in so that the messages that get amplified still create confidence and momentum? And that's what I think you're saying, and I agree.
Yeah. Right. When you come out, Angus King, who's like, okay, an independent, comes out and said, well, it's because it's not working. I'm like, what? That's not the show of strength that I think that could have been actually portrayed here, because I do think what we see now, which is really interesting, calling them back to get to work was really smart, because you can see that ACA was never going to happen. Right. So it's like, even James Tellerico, if you're watching him speak about this, he really felt like we had strength and we should have played that hand. Because if our brand, if we say we care about people, then we really have to show that, right? And we really have to show that we're fighting for them. And when you're dealing with people, you can't negotiate with people that don't care at all. So you have to figure out how to leverage your power smartly, right? So now that we're here, what we are seeing, and let's go to the next phase of this. Now that we force them back to work, Mike Moses Johnson, Mr. on Grinder, and whoever he is, he is all like concerned about hiding the Epstein files, all this stuff. They swore in the congresswoman from Arizona, and it seems like there is just a pile-on that now we've kind of forgetting what's happened on Sunday to like what's happening now. And Trump is in trouble, right? Hot
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, he's definitely in hot water. They're definitely scrambling, and they're not just scrambling on the Epstein files. They're scrambling on everything else. They're scrambling on the economy. They're
Right.
scrambling on how people feel about tariffs. It's just a whole big bucket full of stuff all dropping at the same time. And I think someone said earlier, I know, it's like, maybe the Christian right can forgive you for grabbing women by the hoo-hoo-hoos, but maybe they can't forgive you about children. And so I think that's going to be
Yeah.
important, pedophiles. And so I think
Okay.
I think that's something to think about. It'll be interesting conversation over the holidays. And I think that's another interesting thing to think about is people are going to be with their families over the next couple of weeks. They'll
Right.
have an opportunity. I'm going to say less, talk less, and listen more,
Would
and ask
eat,
more
eat more,
questions. Yeah, and I
maybe
think
more
it
pie.
and eat more pie. But Rachel Betakoffer really, you sent me her article, and it was really great in terms of how she talks about it. You want to just chat about that for a second in terms
Yeah,
of how
we're going
she
to have
thinks about
Rachel
it?
on later, and I'm going to say that when we talk about our show right now, everybody watching, we will after this show take a couple weeks off for the holiday, the Turkey Day, and then we'll be coming back December 5th really strong with some great shows. Rachel will be on. We'll be doing some Substack live, so stay tuned for that. We'll probably do it with Rachel. Yeah, Reality Bites was this like saying, look, with this was really she considered it a win, and really kind of laid out why she felt that way. And I sent that around because I was somewhere in the middle feeling like, okay, we knew we had to go this way. We're really making them, the opposition sort of confront this because the American people they have finally maybe woken up. They need to wake up. And actually, she's saying, dudes, they got to feel the pain. They're not believing you, but when they feel it, they're going to start to look and wake up. And that's pretty much what what she was saying.
Yeah, and I think the last point that I would make is about the show today
Yeah.
and why it's so important. And so you're going to be talking about the cameras and all of that stuff.
Yes.
But when we are having this conversation, what I have in the back of my mind is that we're so focused on all of these other things. We're so focused on getting food on the table and what's happening with immigration
Yes.
and all of the things that we keep talking about that are kitchen table issues, that these
Right.
other pieces that we're going to have in this discussion today, they get in the back burner, but they really ought to be at the forefront of what's happening to the country and what's happening to us in our privacy and how people will be able to take advantage of what we do, how we do it, and when we do it. So I think all of it is important. We just got to figure out how to put it all in a bottle and be able to give it to people in ways that they can understand and figure out how it's going to impact their lives.
Yeah, and I like to say, like, what will, especially calling attention to the mass surveillance, because it wraps into where our issues of freedom, civil rights, our privacy, all the things that we value, and this administration is really making sure that they crush that. So that's why when we're talking about things today that will be up for a vote, especially can cameras spy on you, all this simple stuff. Can you, what is done with your data from our telephones and I mean our cell phones, and how all this is important to our freedom in the end, when you have a regime and who is lawless and corrupt, funneling billions of dollars, you better be aware. And right now, we have an opportunity to correct that if we can, and really, especially in Virginia, with some of the votes we can really put forward on to make the conversations happen. And I would also like to say that in this group, we'll be talking about how we can go forward in 2026, what we can do about having better leadership from. We're going to Indivisibles talking about primaries. We're going to talk to Leah Greenberg about that in December. Ranked choice voting is another way to really get better leadership at times when we talk about voting. And also keep telling your stories. Rural Ground Game with the Storyteller Project during Thanksgiving, these hardship stories, we need to make sure that we're using our messaging, our storytelling, and buying a turkey, buying food is expensive. And we need to make sure that when all this harm comes, what did you say? Make injustice in the light. Was it our
It's
favorite
right, making justice public.
public? And so we need to keep doing what we do well. So I'm so excited so we can get our show kicked off today because it is going to be a goodie. And let's go ahead and let me just open it up, and then we'll get to, excited to have Louisa Borowski here, our leader from the Grassroots Coalition. But in general, let's just open it up. So welcome everybody. You are on Network Nova's Live, Friday Power Lunch. Today it is November 14th. You're on the Power Lunch, and we love to amplify the voice of the grassroots across the nation. Rules of the road. If you're new, use the chat. Tell us where you're at, what you're doing, how you felt about the government shutdown shit, as I say, and why you're here today. And I hope you stay with us. Stick around for the after chat, because let me tell you, remember, we have a great author today. You know, you have to be here for that. He is going to, his name is Alec Karakanattanis. He's the founder director of Civil Rights Corp, and he is going to talk about this whole subject, and we're going to have a special after chat. So 1 p.m. on, don't leave the room. Alec is going to be here talking about his new book, Propaganda. So that'll be exciting. And we have today a really special guest, because he's part of our coalition, Rob Pogenclass, Executive Director Justice Ford. He's going to set the stage about the Virginia justice system and of how it's this increasing surveillance program and what reforms are needed to protect privacy and due process. And I'm so excited to welcome in Michael Soffer, the lawyer at Justice Institute, talking about the Norfolk lawsuit, some updates on that, about the tools of oppression, and about using these cameras without warrants and all the lawsuits that are pending around that. And like I said, we will have Alec Karakatanis here talking about his new book, Propaganda, and how it relates to the mass surveillance issue. And that's going to be very exciting. But especially Aftyn is going to be here. She is running in Tennessee. She is the representative right now, the state representative who's going to be running for Congress in just CD7. So we're going to talk to Aftyn, and she'll be here at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. So, oh my gosh, what a big show we have today.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, everybody. And we are going to go bring up Louisa, and let's talk about what is the Grassroots Coalition up to. That was a mouthful of all those guests we have today, by the way.
I
know.
was just going to tell you.
Very busy day, but very excited to be with you. We are getting ready for the legislative session. After our big wins last week, we have a lot we want to get done with this supermajority in the state house. And so that means we're going to be coming to you with calls to action and lots of other things. But I want to give everyone a reminder of what our role as the Virginia Grassroots Coalition is during the legislative session. So the first is that we have working groups focused on a number of different issues. These include, our overall legislative working group will be focused on the constitutional amendments. We've got a working group on campaign finance reform, one on climate and clean energy. We have our criminal justice reform group headed by Rob at Justice Forward Virginia. We are working on good governance legislation, gun violence prevention, immigration, which is a topic we haven't leaned into as much before and are definitely going to be watching some of those bills and helping support them, public education, and then women and families. So I want to encourage folks, if you are interested in helping out on any of these legislative priorities, you can send me an email and I can connect you with the lead for that issue area. We try to collaborate on the work that we do because, one, it needs to be strategic. And two, we often are able to help each other out. So if we find a roadblock somewhere in the process, we meet in our legislative working group every 2 weeks to talk through, okay, what strategy are you using? Who has a connection to this legislator? What do we think we want to do going forward? Do we need to do another call to action? How might we frame it? So we really have a great group who's been working together on this for a number of years. So the role the coalition plays during the legislative session, first we start with strategy meetings with our legislators between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Right before Thanksgiving, I will email them our legislative priorities letter talking about the priorities that I listed above, but with some additional detail. And during that time in that email, I say, please meet with us. We want to share more of our priorities with you, and we'd love to hear about your priorities and how we might collaborate. We often meet with 10 to 20 legislators over that month. Then during the session, which will start in January, we track our priority bills and issue calls to action to coalition members. I know many of you have seen those before. This allows us to, one, keep you informed about the bills, but also for us to make sure that we are holding our legislators accountable to the way we want them to vote on these different topics. This is helpful, one, for those who might be struggling to figure out which direction they want to go, how they might choose to vote. But secondly, it's helpful for those who are going to vote in the direction that we want them to give them that backup. We had Virgil Thornton at our legislative priorities meeting earlier this week, and he was just like, I want to hear what you guys do. And I said, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to flood your email with these calls to action. And this is really to support you so that you can tell people, well, voters in Virginia asked me to vote this way. And he was like, oh, I'm so glad you're going to do that. So it really matters. And all of the energy that you've put in the past and this year, coming year as well, really makes a difference. We also help provide testimony on a number of the bills that we work on. We work directly with the patrons of the bills to talk about what kind of testimony they're looking for and help identify people to testify during committee meetings. And then we plan and participate in lobby days. So you will start to see in the emails that I send out lobby day information on a variety of different topics. Really encourage you to go down. It does make a difference when you can have some of these conversations one-on-one with your legislators. So look out for that coming up. Last thing is we just have a couple of different Virginia Grassroots Coalition meetings that are scheduled for our monthly coalition meeting is this Sunday, November 16th at 6 p.m. We have our elections working group debrief, which will be our last meeting, really summing up our lessons learned from this past election cycle. That's on Wednesday, November 19th at 4:30. And then our next legislative working group meeting will be Wednesday, December 3rd at 4:30. So I will put this info in the chat. Just email me if you, one, want to be connected to anybody working on particular issue areas, or two, want to join any of the meetings I just mentioned.
So thank you so much for that report out. And let's bring up our first guest if we can and get this party started. Okay, there you go. Hey, Rob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Catherine?
You're looking good and all sharp and dressed up for us. That's awesome.
Getting ready for session.
Yeah, well, let me do the business of introducing you. Welcome, Rob Pogenglass, Executive Director of Justice Forward Virginia. And I want to say a little bit about you because it's really great. Your background is so extensive. You have served as a legal aid lawyer in both Iowa and Virginia, and you started your career as a public defender in Newport News. So a local guy working down there. That's super great. You have argued cases on the behalf of indigent clients of both Iowa and the Iowa Supreme Court and the Virginia Court of Virginia, the Supreme Court of Virginia. In 2010, Rob was the Virginia State Bar's recipient of the Oliver Whitehill Law Students Pro Bono Award. He has served on the Iowa State Bar Association Student Debt Task Force as the board president for Virginians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, currently serves on the VSB Committee on Access to Legal Services, and helped lead the charge for the record sealing legislation that will go into effect in Virginia in 2026. And we're just so excited to have you here and talk about what this whole laying the land for the mass surveillance. So let's get started there. First, I want people to understand about Justice Forward Virginia and what your organization does. So can we talk first about Justice Forward Virginia?
Absolutely. So we're a public defender-led, nonpartisan legislative advocacy organization.
Right.
We started in 2017 after the first election of Donald Trump. We've overhauled Virginia's criminal legal system by both drafting and advocating for landmark criminal legal reforms. Some of those include ending mandatory jury sentencing, which had been around since colonial times, probation reforms, banning traffic stops for minor equipment violations, ending presumptions against bail, and many others. So we've been doing this since 2017. In Virginia, the majority of people charged with crimes rely on indigent defenders, and that is who our organization is. We see those systems failures up close, and we use the expertise that we gain to push for real solutions that improve safety, prevent harm, and restore justice in our communities and courts.
Yeah, it's something very important, especially to my heart when you talk about this, when we call it the criminal justice system. Sometimes it doesn't seem so fair and equitable. Talking about the death penalty, your work around that is just amazing. And also, things like, what do you call it? the mass incarceration that we see going on, and the people that are behind bars and really making sure they get the justice they do deserve is so important. And so let's get into what we're talking about today when we talk about Virginia's justice system and this increasing pressure with surveillance. Talk about what that means when we talk about mass surveillance and where somebody's watching you, and what your organization has been doing, pushing back against this mass surveillance technology. Can you give us the lay of the land? Because maybe a lot of people don't really understand what we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah. So this upcoming session will be our fourth session working on this particular issue. And this has really come from Flock Safety, who is the company that has the private company that has been pushing this technology, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So in 2023, we saw the first bill to allow a massive expansion of license plate readers across the state of Virginia. And we have been at the forefront pushing back against that expansion, because at first we didn't know enough about the technology. As we have learned more and more about the technology, we have pushed back even harder, because the lessons learned have been, this is terrible, frightening, creepy stuff, and we want to get rid of it. And fortunately, for the last 3 years, the General Assembly has agreed with us, and they have decided again and again and again not to move forward with an expansion of mass surveillance, and that's where we want to stay.
Let's talk about Flock before we get into what we want to talk about, the ALPRs, the automatic license plate readers, which are so interesting to me because they are everywhere. And I don't know, like in Virginia, we could talk about where they are and that what that expansion could look like, and why we're trying to make sure we control what's happening there and the data around that, and the data collection, and why that could even get involved in what we see, the ICE cracking down on immigrants, tracking people, all the different kind of, like you said, creepy things that could be happening. Let's talk about Flock. There's 7 billion tech startup. This seems a little bit like also follow the money. Can you tell us about Flock? Because I want to say something about it. The word.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think folks here probably know Peter Thiel.
Yes.
Peter
Creepy.
Thiel
Let's
gave
talk
us
about
the
creepy.
advance.
Right.
Peter Thiel's a venture capitalist, like our outgoing governor. He had a $250 million founders fund, which went to Flock Safety. And just less than 10 years later, they're a $7.5 billion company. They've been expanding rapidly across the country. Their strategy is simply to convince law enforcement to convince a mayor that this is worthwhile. And then the public finds out about it usually after the fact. There's not much public conversation before decisions get made. That's Flock's strategy, and we got to push back.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's obviously a lot of this tech and AI. With the AI technology, we've talked a lot about that. I mean, what we're worried about, we've been talking about this for years, and it really came pretty quickly, how they're using this to find things quickly, even about us in social media. We see that. That's a whole different conversation. But just for this conversation with Flock, let's talk about what are PRSs, as we call automatic license plate readers. What are they?
So automatic license plate readers are high-speed, artificial intelligence-enabled cameras. These are not red light cameras. These are not speed cameras. These cameras are high-tech that capture images of cars, vehicles, license plates. They capture the characters. They're like scanners. They scan the license plates and record that data. So that's converted into machine-readable text, as well as a substantial part of the vehicle. So the make, the model, the color, any occupants who are in the back of the vehicle. The picture is always taken of the back. Bumper stickers. If you've got a pro-choice bumper sticker, that's going to capture that as well. Other unique information, scratches or anything that distinguishes the vehicle, and the immediate vicinity if there happens to be someone getting out of the car at the time the picture is taken. So these images and license plate text are then paired with the information on the date, the time, and the GPS location of where that vehicle was detected. And then that information goes into databases that is shared nationwide. That's Flock's real selling point, is that they've got a national surveillance network. So any law enforcement agent anywhere in the country, if they're part of the Flock network, can just tap into that and find out what's going on any other part of the country. Because ALPR systems capture license plate data of all the vehicles scanned, they're taking millions of photos every day. And all of that information is then kept in this system.
In the system. And I know they say it's deleted after so many days. What's your point on what are you finding?
Yeah. So Flock has proposed, their sort of standard is they want to keep the data for 30 days. But if it's flagged for any particular reason that law enforcement want to flag it for, then they can keep it indefinitely. And Flock, by the way, has a worldwide license to use the anonymized data. So they can, we really don't know what happens then once it gets to Flock.
Could they share this with ICE or Homeland Security? Are they bound by any kind of legal laws? I mean, I can ask Michael so for that, but are they bound by any laws about what they can do with that data?
It's so hard to talk about, are they bound by laws in this day and
Maybe
age?
that's a dumb way to say it.
Well,
Yeah,
because, is Flock bound by a law? Who's going to enforce it against them? This federal government?
right.
That's the problem we're up against. Virginia did pass a law in 2025 that purported to put some regulations on that, but we know the federal government doesn't care about what state laws are being passed.
That's true.
So they can go right through that.
Well, let's get into the abuse then, because what I think we're worried about, as we are driving around, and when I was talking to people on your team, I think as Americans, we have this idea of freedom, right? We don't want people spying on us, and that creepiness where everywhere you go, you are on video, right? And it's so dangerous. So we see the arguments for it, the pro arguments. Oh, this keeps us safe. Number one, oh, we can for human trafficking or finding different kind of lawbreakers in immediate time, child abductions. I could see that the law enforcement or people arguing for this is their point of view. But so tell us about how do the law enforcement use this data, and and more about the abuse. Give us that abuse. I think people will be shocked to find that out.
Yeah, so there are all these hot lists that are created, missing children, stolen vehicles.
Right.
It could be potential, drug traffickers or something like that. And so there's all these lists of license plates that or types of cars that get put in, and then law enforcement get pinged when they get a hit. Unfortunately, the technology is not 100% reliable, so occasionally they get wrong hits. And that creates a problem. The data then also gets filtered into these real-time crime centers. We have 9 of these in Virginia, where really all the different types of surveillance are sort of coming into one place where law enforcement can just sit. It's like a movie, like you're sitting and there's all these screens, and they can just sort of absorb all the surveillance tech that they're using. And so, yeah, to get into the abuse, we're talking about, and this is prevalent, it's well documented, it's across the country, police surveilling people because of their political views, sexual orientation, immigration status, using it to stalk ex-partners of themselves, women seeking reproductive health care. There's a case out of Texas on that. Traditionally marginalized groups, and then accessed overwhelmingly by the federal government. I'm just going to give a handful of examples. I promise you this list is much longer, and I'm just going to do my best. So LGBTQ in 1998, because this technology has been around for quite a while, a Washington, D.C. police officer pleaded guilty to extortion after looking up the plates of vehicles near a gay bar and then blackmailing the vehicle owners about where they had been. First Amendment political speech this group cares about. During the 2008 election and up to the inauguration, Virginia State Police used ALPRs to collect information about people attending the inauguration and the related rallies, both for Sarah Palin and for Barack Obama. Religion. 2012, there was an AP report that found that NYPD was deliberately scanning every vehicle parked near a mosque in New York and New Jersey, so targeting religious groups. In 2023, Kansas, there were actually 2 cases in Kansas, but in this one, a police chief used flock cameras to stalk his ex-partner. So he used the cameras 164 different times to find out her whereabouts, and her new boyfriend, to find his whereabouts 64 different times. And while he was serving as the police chief in that Kansas town. Mistakes that they make. In 2024, police in Ohio released a canine on a man after the ALPR identified a wrong car that it thought was stolen. Turns out it wasn't. The private sharing, if you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's, you see that they have their own ALPRs. We've now learned in the past year that those are being filtered to law enforcement. So Home Depot and Lowe's are collecting that information and then sharing it with law enforcement. Many people who do construction work, who might, be undocumented, they use those Home Depot and Lowe's parking lots to
Right.
find work, because that's where people are going because they want work done, which ties into immigration. So in the past year, local police around the country started performing lookups on flock ALPR. We have the search data from Freedom of Information Act requests. They're typing in ICE, they're typing in immigration, they're typing in DHS, and it's giving DHS side door access that they've never had before, and using this to conduct raids on harmful people. And it's happened in Virginia. So ATF was accessing the Richmond Police Department's license plate readers for 4 months this year.
Well, so we obviously the list of abuses are very long, and you could start to see when you're talking about what our author is going to talk about. Alec is going to be here for propaganda. Is that when you have this with a corrupt administration who is leading in DOJ and Homeland Security, has all that power, this is something really to be concerned about. This kind of technology and AI stuff, and how it could be weaponized against us. So what I'd like to do is I want to make sure we get to Michael Sofer, who's going to be here to talk about that lawsuit and some of the information around that, about some of those tools of oppression, as we say. But I want to make sure that we do the call to action, and we'll keep talking about that throughout the show, that you do have a call to action that we can put in the chat of what people in this room could do. And so can you just talk really the last part of this, what the last part is, what we can do to help? What reforms do we need to do to protect privacy and due process in Virginia?
Absolutely. So we posted the action in the chat. I just want to say, to make it clear, we oppose mass surveillance because of the serious, significant implications on our safety, the well-documented abuse by law enforcement, government, private industry, the disparate impacts on traditionally marginalized communities, the potential this technology has to cause mass incarceration, the cost on taxpayers, there's so many reasons to oppose this tech. So I want to say we should ban them. We're going to have a bill to ban ALPRs for law enforcement use in Virginia. We need to fight the expansion. That's what our action alert is about. And really the fronts that this fight is being waged on really comes down to localities. It's doing the work in your local community. Lots of cities and counties have adopted flock and other ALPRs without people knowing about it or understanding what it is. And once you know what it is, you can fight back at the local level, which is really important. Public defenders are fighting back in the courtrooms, and then we've got IJ fighting this in federal court with their litigation.
Great.
So yeah, we're fighting back.
Well, good. And I think it's really important for us to know, and the larger context of this fight is really about, our civil rights, our privacy, the things we really love as Americans, where we feel like we're free and not in this police state. So thank you very much. I know you're going to be around the whole show with us. Rob Pogenglass, thank you so much for being here, Executive Director of Justice Forward Virginia. And let us call up right now and into the room. When we talk about the tools of oppression, we have Michael Sofer here, lawyer at Justice Institute. Hello, Michael. Great to see you. You're attorney with the Institute for Justice, and you're joining to talk about the Norfolk lawsuit. That was challenging the use of, people may not believe this, 172 cameras, automatic license plate readers without warrants, right? But I think there's some new news on the case. But let's talk about in general what led to this. And when we talk about these license plate readers, why are there so many in this area and not like in Northern Virginia? What are we seeing that's really happening? We talk about brown and Black communities.
So the number has since grown actually to 176. We learned about Norfolk last year when they still had 172 license plate readers, and we saw that the police chief had told the city council that their system of flock cameras could create a traceable path of a car as it moves through the city, and it would be difficult to drive anywhere of any distance without running into a camera. So we sued them. They moved to dismiss our lawsuit. The court let it go forward because it said it was plausible that this was a Fourth Amendment violation. We've since gotten discovery from them, and we discovered that virtually every route that you can drive in the city of Norfolk will be picked up by a camera, and many of those routes can be reconstructed almost in their entirety. With that information, you can identify where people are in real time, you can spot habits, patterns, and routines, and you can discover private information about their lives. You know, we were able to identify ways in which the police department could figure out when people went to religious services, when they visited relatives. These cameras are sometimes just a few feet from people's homes, places of worship, medical facilities, all sorts of things. And we also discovered in the lawsuit that there were very minimal restrictions on access. Flock lets its customers download a spreadsheet of the reason police officers are searching the system. We found out that Norfolk didn't even bother to do that for 2 years until after we sued them. And even now, it's kind of just a box checking exercise. They just look to see if everything is filled out. And most of the reasons that are provided are completely meaningless. There'll be things like criminal justice, law enforcement, investigation. So we're creating this unprecedented record of
Right.
ordinary, for the most part, just ordinary law-abiding people's movements and making it freely accessible to police, sometimes all over the country.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, so this feels really unconstitutional.
Absolutely.
Let's
So
talk about that. Yes.
the Supreme Court has said we all have a reasonable expectation of privacy in the sum of our public movements. And the idea is, if I go to CVS on the corner, someone can see me there, someone can walk behind me part of the way. But if I see that same person again and again and again over weeks, at every place I go, that's disturbing. That would be considered harassment, stalking. It would be illegal for a private person to do it. And that's what the police are doing. They're picking us up as we're going to one place, to another place, to the same place over and over again, and compiling this long-term record of our movements. It's the difference between a day in the life and a way of life.
Wow. So what's happening with this? What is happening with this lawsuit now? Where are you with it?
Sure. So we finished discovery, and both parties moved for summary judgment, which is sort of asking the court to decide the case as a matter of law without holding a trial. So that's now pending with the court. Depending on how the court decides that, we may have a trial, which is currently scheduled in February of next year.
So you talk about when we talk about the Constitution, talk about when you see this widespread use of the automatic license plate readers, how it violates the Fourth Amendment. And I feel like that's really important. We talk about the Constitution when we see so many violations where, like, you see ICE just rounding up people, for instance. We just feel like due process, our amendments don't mean anything, to protect us. So what is your concern about this widespread use of it and how it relates to our rights?
So the Fourth Amendment guarantees a right to be secure in our persons and properties. And we at IJ think that the right to be secure is very broad. It means not just a right to be spared from unconstitutional searches and seizures and invasions of our liberty. It means a right to feel comfortable that that won't happen. And this sort of suffocating atmosphere of police surveillance has this tendency to chill where we go, who we associate with. Just knowing that it's there changes the way that we behave. And Justice Robert Jackson, just a few years after he returned from prosecuting Nazi war criminals at the Nuremberg trials, wrote that the Fourth Amendment seeks to prevent a too permeating police surveillance because the framers of our Constitution thought that was a greater danger to liberty than, maybe letting some criminals go free now and then.
Right. Well, yeah, that seems super important when we see that, that feeling that our rights are eroded. So what's really interesting to me when I look at this case, one, we could talk about what happens if you win the case, right? But why so many in Norfolk? Why this seems like to be an issue? Is this a test case they're kind of running? Like, are they doing it? And it's predominantly Black and brown community. So what are you seeing when you see this flock being used? Are you seeing money, corruption, profiteering with this in this particular area with leadership there? I mean, what's going on in this one community? It seems like to me, I know they're all over the state, but why are they concentrated in Norfolk?
I mean, Norfolk is a big city. It does, have crime problems, certainly in some areas. And these cameras have proliferated across the country. It's sort of become, I think to some extent, it's sort of a fad among police officers where they can put up all of the cameras and then tell the community, tell political leaders, look, we put up all of these cameras. We're doing something to stop crime, whether it's actually lowering crime or not.
Right.
And Norfolk is emblematic of many other cities. There are plenty of other cities that have hundreds of flock cameras.
No
Um,
kidding. Okay.
One thing that's happened in Norfolk is that Flock actually took over the defense of the case effectively. It tried to intervene as a defendant, and the court denied that request. And then Flock's lawyers at a private law firm announced all of a sudden that they represent the city of Norfolk, and they've been litigating the case since then. So you see this kind of disturbing takeover of this public function by a
Right.
private enterprise, this corporation that's privately held that we don't have a lot of, insight into or oversight of.
Well, especially when you talk about the billions behind it, this technology, and that's just seems to me that that's something to watch. So when we talk about, if we go click quickly on the wrap up here, is first of all, I want to say if anybody does have questions for Michael, please put them in the chat because he will not be able to stay long for the in the after chat. So go and he'll be able to answer those. But if you win, this would be great, right? And what would that look like? And then what other technology are you worried about that you see maybe coming at us? We should be paying attention that your organization is watching.
So our perspective is that license plate readers can be used with sufficient guardrails
Right.
and with limitations on how data are held. So our view is that generally, if there's a scan of a license plate and police don't have a warrant, it's not a car that's been reported stolen, there's no exception to the warrant requirement that applies, then that should be deleted pretty promptly within 24 hours. It shouldn't be compiled in a police database for anyone to search and mine for insights.
Right.
That's our general view is the long-term collection of people's movements should be subject to a warrant requirement. In terms of the other technologies,
Yes.
License plate readers are really only the tip of the iceberg. We're seeing more and
Look
more.
at my phone. Just my phone alone is a tracker, isn't it?
Right. But we're seeing police create their own surveillance
Mhm.
systems increasingly with, in many cities, there are thousands of video cameras, some equipped even with facial recognition, pattern recognition. We see drones. We see Flock integrating with dash cams. We see Flock integrating with Ring. We see all of these private sector companies integrating the data they collect from us with police and police buying data from data brokers. We're really just at the beginning of this new era of big data surveillance.
I definitely believe we're at the beginning because you think about it, and I know there's one question, then we'll need to wrap up. Is that everybody, because we do like activism, we go door to door ourselves, and I wonder who's watching us, right? But those ring door cameras where people are taking pictures, how is that kind of just related? When I think about Fennell, we're going ringing the doorbells. That data is collected. Is that somehow integrated at all? Like, should we be worried about that in our privacy?
It can be. There have been times when, Ring has allowed its users to sort of just open up their cameras to police and police to have some level of access to them. In general, I'm not as worried about private cameras because it still
Right.
requires the police to go to someone and that person to say, like, yes, I want to share this with you. And doesn't present the same dangers as this interconnected network of cameras police can access whenever they want. But when people are making those cameras, the police's cameras, and giving police free access to them, that raises a lot of concerns.
Yes, and it does. So this group is definitely going to be interested in this discussion in the after chat with our author. And Michael, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say, give a round of applause to Michael Sofer. He also, you're at the Institute of Justice now, but you did graduate from the University of Pennsylvania. That's great. And Harvard Law School before joining the Institute for Justice. Thank you for all the work you do around our civil rights. And it's been a pleasure having you. So for now,
Thank you.
handing it over to you because I've heard that there's a special guest. Our Spotlight's guest has made it in the room. Nadine, you have your hand up, but girl, that's for the after chat. Come on.
Yes, we do have a very, very special guest. And so I am really anxious for us to get a chance. Aftyn, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Really grateful to be here.
So let me just tell everybody really quickly. So Catherine, thank you. I want to say thank you to Stair and Danny Cook and Lindley Thorne and everybody else for finding a way to get you here to talk with us today. So for those of you, and I can't imagine who doesn't know, this is Aftyn Bain, and she is actually a state delegate in Tennessee, but she is going to flip Tennessee 7. And I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. I know we have a very limited amount of time, so why don't we do that?
Sure. So I'm Representative Aftyn Bain. I represent downtown Nashville in the Tennessee House of Representatives. And in July, after voting for the big ugly bill, Representative Mark Green at the U.S. Congress decided to vacate the seat, thus catalyzing the last special congressional election in the entire country. It is flippable. Historically, it's an R plus 18 to 20 district, but as we've seen, Democrats have been overperforming 16, 18 points. Our poll in October said that we were about 6 points down, and recent polling shows us as close as 2. The tide is turning in Tennessee. The pendulum is swinging, and I couldn't be more grateful to be the Democratic nominee for this congressional seat. Early voting started Wednesday. It lasts until the 26th, and the election is on December 2nd. And I'm running against a MAGA-backed special interest puppet who's basically been groomed from the seat since he's been in high school. But the tide is turning, and we've been running on the crisis of affordability and how a lot of folks have voted for an economic agenda that didn't deliver, and that we want a fighter such as myself who's going to fight to make life more affordable for Tennesseans in Congress.
So we're excited because everybody wants to write postcards, make phone banking, do whatever we can do to get this seat flipped. So here's what I want to hear you talk about. This would be shockwaves because it would really truly be a tide changing. But you've talked very specifically about what you're doing because you have to win over some conservatives and you have to win over some independents. So tell us how you're doing that.
Yeah, so as a legislator, I run for office because I need the seat to organize in and a bigger megaphone. And so as a state legislator, I have been organizing around ending Tennessee's grocery tax. We have the highest sales tax of groceries in the country by closing corporate loopholes. And so for the past 3 years, I've been organizing across the state and the 7th district, talking about issues of affordability. And then 2 is that I have gone on conservative talk radio quarterly to hold my own and to say that immigrants are not the reason that your grocery prices are high. And so you have a candidate like me who has, values, who stands up for marginalized communities and says it with, I say it with my whole chest, but also that I'm a dogged fighter when it comes to affordability and making things, decreasing costs, increasing wages, and improving the quality of life for so many Tennesseans. So affordability is resonant. It's the only thing people are talking about. And the Epstein files, lo and behold, all the polling shows that 80% of voters on either side deeply care about this. And my opponent has not only equivocated, but has been silent when asked, would he support releasing the files?
So another really cool thing is you're a millennial, which is really awesome. I think the average age in Tennessee is somewhere around 35. So what has your messaging been there? How are you pulling in these younger voters who sometimes sit out?
Yeah. So what's exciting about this congressional district, it is actually one of the youngest in Tennessee. Voters under the age of 45 outnumber voters over the age of 55, 3-1. We have Vanderbilt, Belmont, HBCUs such as Fisk, Meharry, Austin P, and Clarksville. So there's a ton of student activity. And because I was the youngest and I was the only woman running in the entire race on either side, young people have just flocked to our campaign. They're out canvassing. I received a picture of a Gen Z voter from Vanderbilt holding a postcard that maybe one of you had written. I thought, I didn't even think they checked their mail, but here we are. And so it's just the vibes are, just immaculate. And I think people are just, voters in the state are waking up to the fact that they have been lied to and that this agenda is not delivering for them in tangible ways.
So what can we do? So here we are, we're sort of from all over the place. What can we do to help you flip this seat?
Yeah, as I've told folks across Tennessee that you have to make this race your entire personality. So it's, Thanksgiving is imminent. Asking your uncle and aunt to write postcards and phone bank, because we can absolutely flip it. And for those of you, just some historical context, Nashville had a consolidated Democratic district. They, after redistricting, they cut it into 3. And they overreached. And even Representative Mark Green, the former representative for the seat, told them not to do it because they cut in a lot of high turnout precincts in Nashville. It includes Montgomery County, which is our purple bellwether county, includes Fort Campbell. And so the overreach allowed us this opportunity. And they're running a really tired playbook. And while they've been running, they've been using rhetoric, fear, intimidation. We've been building our muscle. We've been building the infrastructure we need for this moment. And that's what brings me a lot of joy and hope right now.
I certainly do hope so. One of the things that it doesn't matter if you are a Republican or an independent, your groceries are still expensive. And the change that you thought was going to happen didn't happen. Your health care is still going to go up. Nothing that they said they were going to do, they're doing. And I have to believe that at the end of the day, pocketbooks will win out. So what else do you want us to know? And as you're sort of going through this race, what is it that you're thinking is your superpower as you sort of work through and your authenticity, you're out there with the people. What is the thing?
Yeah, I mean, the conservative talk show host once said that I am a lot like Trump, and I kind of say more, please. And he said, because you're authentic, like who you are in person is who you are in the legislature, is who you are in front of a Republican, in front of a Democrat. I don't equivocate on my issues. I may talk about them differently, but unlike my opponent, who's basically a puppet to the puppet masters of the universe. So in the next few weeks, as you are able, please phone bank. We've got canvassing opportunities. The entire, so 95 counties across the state where their Democratic parties were reorganized. And so those 95 counties are coming together for a day of action on the 29th. And so there will be cross state road trips to the 7th congressional district to help get out the vote. So you all are more than welcome to come. But anything we can do, this is a referendum on the affordability crisis in our country and the fact that the federal and our state administration has not delivered its promise. And I just want to highlight the importance of the national context of this race. If we do well and if we flip it, it will dramatically transform the map in favor of Democrats next year. And if you are at the national level and you're looking at the Senate and the House map, it is messy. And so if we are able to pull this off, Republicans will pull papers to retire, and it'll put us on the offensive rather than the defensive. And then 2 is that Tennessee is located in the conservative Sixth Circuit judiciary. So what our legislature is trying to do here is coming. The bad things happening here, we've been living under Project 2025 for 15 years. They're coming to your doorstep next because of the Sixth Circuit. They're making their way to the Supreme Court and they're trying to undo your federal constitutional rights. So the more investment you make in a candidate like me, the more investment you make in a state like Tennessee, the better it is going to be for you in the long run. So don't lose hope. As W.E. Du Bois said, as goes the South, so goes the nation. And I think we are excited. We love an underdog story in Tennessee. And as I wear a sweatshirt in my campaigns that says, don't underestimate me, that'll be fun. And that's exactly what they're doing. So we look forward to shocking the nation on December 2nd.
So Aftyn, you're going to shock the nation on December 2nd. One of the things that gets me so excited is you're like write the postcards, do the phone bank. And some people are like, oh, I'm getting too many postcards. And you're like, no, 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 no. Everybody come. Everybody look at this race and see it as a bellwether for the country. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking time out of your really busy schedule to come and get us excited and enthusiastic and motivated to see you win. Catherine, did you want to say anything to Aftyn? I know how excited you were.
We totally needed to see you today. When we talk about this week, and we've been working all year in Virginia, and these big wins we had, I feel like the vibe is really important. So you're keeping our vibe going, and I think it is really important, right?
Yes,
You got
vibes are immaculate. So
it.
just please, yeah, as you are able, make this your entire personality. And we're working so hard. And I'm
Great.
deeply honored and thank you for all for your time. I'm really grateful.
Yeah. So in the chat, everybody, donate money after and give her money. Let's do that now. Secondly, I know people in this room, I know they're excited because they've been writing for you. They're all stoked, and they're talking about going down in cars. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but but thank you. And so thank you for being here. We know you're busy. We know you're busy. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aftyn.
Everybody. Snaps, double snaps.
Hey,
We needed to end the high note. The high note. I'm loving it. Somebody is watching you. Somebody watching us.
well,
And
we're watching Aftyn, that's for sure. I can tell you that. We're all watching her right now.
getting through is so much when we talk about this administration and all the Debbie Downers that are in that administration. And I, cannot wait for the day when these people are brought to justice. And, there are some good things about cameras, catching Trump and all his pedophile friends on cameras. We'll hope we'll get that info soon. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. I can't wait to get to the after chat. I hope
Me
that
neither.
Michael can stay a little longer
Alec
and
is here.
drop because I do have some extra questions for them. But I also can't wait to talk about propaganda because I got questions on that too. So
Let's wrap up because we know what we're going to do. Everybody in the room, if you're familiar with our show, we really prize our after chat community. We go in there, we don't record because this is when we sort of really we build our community. We ask questions, we share stuff. Today it's our last show before the holiday. We're going to take a couple weeks off. We'll be back. Like I said before, we'll be back December 5th and December 12th with a great show and a great program. In fact, we're going to have Elaine Lurie on December 5th and Beth Macy, all of them running for Congress. So we're not stopping. That would be a lot of fun. So make sure that you know that we will not be leaving you. We'll be doing Substack Lives. But in our After Chat community today, we're going to have a special guest. And this is so amazing that we got this gentleman with us. Alec Karakatanis, and the founder and director of the Civil Rights Course, is going to be here. We're going to roll credits. And then we're going to come back, say a few openers, and get to Alec to talk about his wonderful book, Propaganda. And also, I just want to make sure that we say our thank yous to all the audience, to our patrons. If you're a patron here, thank you. And I would say we would love to have some more people in our membership. We do a Substack. We do not ask for payment for Substack. We do all of that free. Our only way to sustain ourselves is the Patreon membership. If you're not a patron, that $5, that $10 every month, that $25 to our badasses really helps us. We want to make sure that we have you as a member, as a patron, and just want to say a special thank you, especially around Thanksgiving time, to put some of that in our pocket. We really appreciate it. It really helps us. And the reorg is coming up, and I just don't want to miss that opportunity to say, when we talk about all these issues that we really want to fix, get involved. The Democratic Party reorg is happening right now, December through January. This is the time to get yourself on a committee, to sign up and be part of changing the party. Get in there. So that's my thought. And thank you to our team.
yeah.
And let's what you want to say some last words, and then we're going to roll.
Yeah, I was just going to let you know that we're going to be recording in the after chat because of our guests.
Yeah,
this
we
time.
are. Somebody's watching you, even in the